Brendan might be nice regarded for having delivered the perception of intentionally to current philosophy. He first characterizes this perception with the subsequent words, that have emerged as the classical, albeit now no longer absolutely unambiguous method of the intentionally thesis. Every intellectual phenomenon is characterized with the aid of using what the scholastics of the Middle Ages known as the intentional, or intellectual, in existence of an item, and what we'd call, even though now no longer completely unambiguously, connection with a content material, path towards an item, which isn't to be understood right here as which means a thing, or immanent objectivity. Every intellectual phenomenon consists of something as an item inside itself. This citation has to be understood in context. On this passage, Brendan ambitions at presenting one, of 6, standards to differentiate intellectual from bodily phenomena with the goal to outline the problem, remember, of clinical psychology, and now no longer to broaden a scientific account of intentionally. The passage in reality suggests, however, that the intentional item toward which we're directed is a part of the mental act. It is something intellectual instead of bodily. Brendan, thus, appears to recommend a shape of immanentism, in step with which the intentional item is with inside the head, because it were. Some Brentano pupils have lately argued that this immanent studying of the intentionally thesis is just too strong. In the mild of different texts with the aid of using Brentano from the equal length, they argue that he distinguishes among intentional correlate and item, and that the life of the latter does now no longer rely on our being directed toward it. When Brentano's college students took up his perception of intentionally to broaden extra systematic accounts, they frequently criticized it for its unclarity concerning the ontological reputation of the intentional item. If the intentional item is a part of the act, it changed into argued, we're confronted with a duplication of the item. Next to the actual, bodily item, that is perceived, remembered, notion of, etc., we've got an intellectual, intentional item, toward which the act is virtually directed. Thus, after I reflect on consideration on the metropolis of Paris, I am virtually contemplating an intellectual item. This is a part of my act of thinking, and now no longer approximately the real metropolis. This view ends in apparent problems. The maximum disastrous of it is that people can in no way be directed toward one and the equal item. If we strive to remedy the trouble with the aid of taking the intentional item to be same with the actual item, on the opposite hand, we are facing the issue of explaining how we are able to have intellectual phenomena which can be directed toward non-current gadgets inclusive of Hamlet, the Golden Mountain, or a spherical square. Like my considering the metropolis of Paris, these types of acts are deliberately directed toward an item, with the difference, however, that their gadgets do now no longer sincerely exist. Brentano's preliminary method of the intentionally thesis does now no longer cope with those issues regarding the ontological reputation of the intentional item. The first strive of Brentano's college students to triumph over those problems changed into made with the aid of using Twardowski, who prominent among content material and item of the act. The previous of that is immanent to the act, the latter now no longer, cf. Twardowski 1977. This difference strongly motivated different individuals of the Brentano school, especially the two college students for who the perception of intentionally had the maximum vital place, Meinong and Husay.